can start afternoon session. Again, for this afternoon session, welcome to one and all, and welcome to our invitee, special speaker, Professor K.N. Amruthesh. I don't have any hesitation to say he is very dynamic, talented, very active. I can say even without any hesitation, work around the clock in the campus, and very popular and active person, faculty in the University of Mysore campus. He is from Botany Department of Studies in Botany. Presently, he is working as a chairman, program coordinator, VGST, Government of Karnataka, and also he is working as IQAC director, as well as nodal officer and e-attestation officer. So many responsibilities he has been shouldered, and with all these also he is performing academically and research-wise excellently. So he is a recipient of the following awards and distinctions from national and international organizations for his research contribution in the field of plant microbe interactions and plant disease management strategies. So to quote a few awards from Indian Science Congress Association in 2000, he has been awarded Best Research Paper Award. Again, from same organization in 2001, he has been awarded Young Scientist Award. UGC National Seminar held in 2001, Best Oral Presentation Award. Like that, so many good paper presentation awards he has been awarded. And he has also been awarded in 2004 ISMPP Asian Level PP Singala Pesticides India Award. Even Indian Society of Plant Pathology in 2005, he has been awarded Best Research Paper Award. So National Festival Committee Suvarna Kannadiga Rajyotsava State Government Award also given during 2006. Government of India DST Fast Track Young Scientist Award he has been received in 2006. So likewise, even IISE or New Delhi 2015, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam National Award also he has been awarded. So as far as research credentials are concerned, he has published more than 66 research papers in reputed national and international journals, and published research articles, about 9 research articles in so many periodicals, and contributed 3 book chapters. And Dr. K.N. Amruthesh citation index is around more than 680, and impact factor ranging from 0.4 to 3.36, with H index more than 60. He has completed more than 4 research projects and has received grants from various prestigious organizations like DBT, DST, UGC, IOE, University of Mysore, Department of Forests, Government of Karnataka. So far, he has guided more than 9 PhD students, 4 MPhil students, and more than 100 postgraduate students at MSc level, and 2 postdoctoral students he has guided. So currently, about 8 PhD students are working. So besides all these research interests, he has been shouldered several responsibilities in the University of Mysore, like director, IQAC, I said already, coordinator, co-chairman, chief superintendent, member, observer of KSET, organizing secretary of so many conferences. Once in quarter, once in a week, he is conducting conferences. Chairman for BOE, BOS, and other academic assignments. Delivered more than 35 special lectures at various platforms, both at national and international level, and a reviewer to various journals, and membership to various prestigious organizations connected to applied botany, biotechnology, and botany. With this brief introduction, I wholeheartedly welcome Dr. K.N. Amruthesh to this session on behalf of all the participants, on behalf of MHRD UGC Academic Staff College, and on behalf of Department of Geology, University of Mysore. I welcome you, sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Very good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. I must be grateful to Dr. S. Basvarajappa, who is a professor and chairman Department of Studies in Zoology, University of Mysore. Actually, we joined together in 2004. We have been colleagues since 16, 17 years. And you know him, he's a very silent worker on the campus who is specialized especially in honeybees. So we are having a greater program, and he is writing written and many fauna, I mean flora, the way we are talking about, he has been compiling many information, especially in and around Karnataka and outside the state also. Very silent worker, is very down to earth person, and I must thankful to him for inviting me to this great platform where people are talking about everyone. The way in India there are many terminologies we are talking about Atmanirbhar and Make in India, like that concept. Now another important talk of the town, talk of India everywhere, that is people are talking about NEP, National Education Policy of 2020, which is thundering everywhere, because it's a student centric. Because of that, we need to know more of that. Some little glimpses on that. Student centric and teachers led program. That's what the saying of the NEP, because they have come out with the two model. One is a learners engagement model, that is what is called ILAS. That means to say involve, leverage, learn, apply, share. This is the with regard to learners engagement model. Whereas for our side, I mean to my dear esteemed colleagues, where we are talking about the faculty excellence model, that is called the CSIR. That means to say collaborative. One must have collaboration. One must have scientific temperament. One must have introspective. One must have reflective. This is called the CSIR model. Though NEP is bringing about learners engagement model and faculty excellence model. So under this two proposals, where are we fitting? That we need to know. So I know I understand, since I was also like you in several years ago, understanding attending the lectures in the afternoon. I understand the mood of the resource persons. Since my esteemed colleagues are here, I'm very happy, since we have the greater responsibility in bringing the country into a greater nation. And under this brief background, I am going to speak about one of the important principal subjects of botanical science, that is principles of ICBN or ICN, how to name a plant. It's not a new to science, but there are somehow many recommendations have come out with this. That's why the refresher course are being conducted like this, to get updated with this current knowledge. What has happened earlier, we have heard of ICBN. All of a sudden, we are talking about ICN. And what is there special in how to name a plant? So I understand the limitations of the time and all, but I want to give a preamble, a brief note of the principles of a ICBN and or ICN, and out in the name of a plant. So you know, one of the oldest science that ever seen. To begin with, Theophrastus, who is considered as the father of botany, who is they are the era of Aristotle's era. They have started the taxonomy actually. So the field of biology that deals with the theory and practice of classification of organism is known as the taxonomy. You must know, since there are objective questions are there in the last, the taxonomy, the terminology is coined by the greater taxonomist Decandol in 1813, because which means of law of arrangements, taxis, arrangement or order or normous law. So it is the science of biological classification. You may be surprised what is so important. It consists of the three important but separate functions. They are nowhere related, but still people are talking about what is the meaning of taxonomy. There is no difference between one and the other, because it involves three important functions. One is the identification, nomenclature, and classification. Nowhere related to each other, but still we don't have a terminology to suit all these functions. the way we are talking about highly interdisciplinary subject like biotechnology. Even today, we don't have a definite definition for biotechnology, the way we talk about anatomy, morphology like that. So this is the another case where it is involved the highly interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, because nowadays people are talking about experimental taxonomy. So another important area. Earlier, we were concentrating only on the three important information used to get. One is morphology being the backbone of taxonomy, and we used to know the timing of flower. That is second one, and finally, at last, we used to know the distribution of the plant communities. Nowadays, it's not like that. It is considered as the principal discipline, though morphology being the backbone of taxonomy. It is revolving around anatomy, cytology, and paleobotany, and another important cytogenetics is very important, and we are talking about biochemistry and also very contemporary issues like the molecular taxonomy. We cannot omit, we cannot come out actually without the subdiscipline, and we have to approach the other department to resolve some of the problems that arise during the finalization of the species. So these are all some of the advancement. But I have selected one of the important functions of taxonomy, that is plant nomenclature. So where people are talking about naming or nomenclature, whatever we are talking about, see identification, which involves the identification, the determining of a particular isolate belonging to a recognized taxon. So that is also there. But at the same time, there are definitions. What is the definition of a species? We have definition of as many taxonomists are there, so much of definition with regard to species. But in a simpler manner, a species is a group of interbreeding natural population that is reproductively isolated from such other groups. So that means to say there are so many definitions with regard to species where we need to go about it. To identify all such types that lived or existed on this earth planet, several criteria are followed. That is very important. Initially, I have told you morphology being the backbone of taxonomy, that will become the features formed on the basis of identification, but then other features were also taken into consideration for this purpose. So you may be having the question, what may be the density of population when you talk about organisms? See, we are dealing with the biological system. It is the science of biological classification, very important. So far, more than 1.5 million species of animals, plants, and microorganisms have been reported. And that means to say, reported means it is estimated. That means to say, it is identified. Then immediately the next function named and classified as per their classification put forth by various taxonomists. So whatever today we are having the ready reckoner, today we are having ready reckoner means because of the efforts being contributed by the well-versed taxonomist. So that is why we are enjoying whatever the kind of research that we are taking about because of the greater efforts, the people who have worked under the sun. So including the greater scientist, the Carlos Linnaeus from Sweden, who is considered as the father of taxonomy. Because of his 17 students, the way we are working, who have been considered as the Linnaean apostles, they have been so loyal. For your information, Carlos Linnaeus did not work outside the Sweden, but his students were sent to different parts of the world. So that was the greater challenges. He wanted to describe world's flora and fauna, but when he has published the Species Plantarum in 1753, he was under the impression that he has published all over the world flora. No, he has published at that time only 7,500 species. We are having today so many species we have reported that we are talking about 18th century. So whatever the recommendation, whatever the changes that took place, that we are talking about today, the greater changes that took place because of the middle of the 18th century that has started. That is one thing. So, but I'm telling you 1.5 million species. But for your information, 3 million species to be reported, undescribed species to be reported. Still, taxonomists have got many responsibilities to be reported, to be identified, to be named, to be classified in a proper manner. So that is for your surprise, according to the taxonomist or morphologist, 50 million species. 50, I'm talking about 1.5 of the reported, 3 million species to be described, 50 million species have become extinct. Such a greater loss because of the 5 mass extinction took place over the various geological time scale. For your information, so because of human interference, we are going to have a 6th mass extinction in a short while, because whatever the 5th mass extinction took place because of the natural catastrophes. That's why Mahatma Gandhi ji says, because of our attitude, Earth provides enough to satisfy everyone's needs, but not everyone's greed. Mahatma Gandhi ji said. That means to say, it has not come immediately. The vast number of species prevailing on Earth planet is the result of evolutionary processes that have been operating since life originated about 3.5 million years ago. That the need of the hour, why taxonomists are in the endangered condition. Nobody is coming forward to become taxonomist. As new species evolved, a small number of species that became misfits in the prevailing environment became extinct. So whatever the 5 mass extinction that have been take place because of natural catastrophe, the 6th mass extinction everywhere the people are talking about, is in fact because of the human interference on biodiversity and because of the greedy nature of the human beings. The rapid increase in human population and humanity's greed for luxurious living are have resulted in marked environmental degradation, particularly in the recent decades. So increasing species extinction 100 or even 1,000-fold compared to background extinction. That means to say, unlike the past 5 mass extinction that were due to natural catastrophes, the 6th mass extinction would be exclusively the result of human activities. So why I am cautioning? Because there should be awareness. So habitat loss and its degradation, overexploitation of bioresources and climate change have been the main drivers of the 6th mass extinction crisis. So best is the among the human-induced environmental changes. Climate change is going to affect humanity more than the any other changes. Apart from exterminating a large number of both terrestrial and aquatic species, these changes bring down crop productivity and quality sustainability, and thus seriously compromising ecosystem services. We are getting the whatever the services are free of cost. Everywhere we are talking about GST, where we are not paying anything. We are getting ecosystem services at free of cost, good oxygen, but we are going to lose. So that is a mitigating human induced environmental changes has become one of the biggest priorities for the humanities to sustain biodiversity and human welfare. You know what is going on at the Himalayan region, especially Kedarnath Wildlife Sanctuary. The people are catching the Himalayan musk deer for its emission of the odor, especially in the male musk deer, which have been poached like anything, and it has become endangered. Like that, many of the important species, deodar, many of the important wood tree, it has been killed, it has been vanished because of the human interference. That is why, because of many reasons, that under that we are going to lose the over exploitation of the biological resources. So at the same time, Cordyceps sinensis caterpillar fungus is found along the Himalayas at 3,000 to 5,000 meter sea level, above sea level in Tibet and parts of the Indian Himalayas. The club-shaped fruiting body of the fungus emerges from the ground during June-July. It has been used in a range of medicine, including what is often called Himalayan Viagra. So what's happening? Because of the fruiting body is in great demand in the international market and is more expensive than gold, more than $100 per gram. Each spring people come here, miles together, they travel, search for these precious fruiting bodies. Because of over exploitation, the fruiting body have become extremely rare now. Like this, the people have to be cautious. So I'm not talking about all those, but I'm interested only in the naming. When you talk about the naming of the on a very important function, there must be one important aspects to be discussed. So when you talk about in the earlier, so the contemporary, when you talk about contemporary issues, when you talk about this important subject, we must know the comprehend of the history, the beginning of its beginning. Any study for that matter, there must be clear objectives. So when you talk about taxonomy, there must be three important objectives we are going to understand. The objectives, number one, the learning of the kinds of plants on earth and their names, of their distinction and their affinities, their distribution and habitat characteristics. Very important. And the correlation of these facets of knowledge with the pertinent scientific data contributed by research activities of related fields of botanical endeavor. This is first objective. So taxonomy means generation of knowledge. Today we know what is to be eaten, what is not to be eaten. Because of that comes by knowledge over the period of, see, agriculture started 10,000 years ago. Today we know what is to be cultivated, what is not to be cultivated. We know what is to be eaten. Today we are not eating Parthenium. See, this is the knowledge. So people know what is to be done. It has been inculcated that one must have the, that's why it is considered as the applied science rather than a basic science. Taxonomy is considered as the applied because an individual, every layman knows what is to be eaten, what is not to be eaten. The second important scientific objective or knowledge generation is the assimilation of all knowledge gained. Whatever the knowledge that people are loaded, it has to be assimilated, it has to be compiled. In what way? It is compiled in the form of treatises to fellow scientists, like to civilization in general. So whatever you are doing in the laboratory, it has to be in the form of flora, it has to be in the publication, so that people will get the information. Today, so many medicinal plants, Vaitania, Samnipara, Ravalfia, Serpentana, these are the traditional knowledge. Because of that we are losing the traditional knowledge. People are talking about one or the other way, the way they are. See, it's very difficult to understand the ethnic language. So that's why taxonomists are in great demand. But it is very difficult to talk to the ethnic group, that is tribal people, because they act wild. Many of our alumni who worked, like Dr. Umar Sharif, who is an alumnus of Mysore University Botany Department, who has worked in Andaman Nicobar, who was beaten by tribals while understanding their behavior. Because whenever a snake bites, which plant to be taken for the treatment and all, they know. This has to be documented. That's why the role of taxonomists, their name, their translation are very important. So another secondary important means whatever the mere acquisition of the knowledge, the mere possession of the inventories is sterile unless it is made available to others. Only then is it of use and an aid to the progress of civilization. So that is very important. That means to say the floras are published, publications are to be made. The third important knowledge or scientific contribution is the objective is the demonstration of the tremendous diversity. People are talking about biodiversity. So what is the useful for human welfare? Biodiversity is the talk of the town. Another important, the people are talking about Atmanirbhar. So the tremendous diversity of the plant world and its relation to humans' understanding of the evolution. That means to say an organized reconstruction of the plant kingdom as a whole can be made available only after inventory of its components. That means to say the plants components means only plants. How many plants we have got? I told you in the beginning, 3 million species to be described, that we have not done. Only 1.5 million species we know. That means to say this has to be assembled. That when this has been done, the charting of the degree and character of variation will demonstrate its diversity. Unless, you see, in a classroom, if there are 50 participants, if I get the 10 participants information, that's incomplete. Unless I get the information of all the 50, then only the diversity we will be understanding. Variation of the degrees we will be understanding. Henceforth, the biodiversity is possible. Understanding of biodiversity is possible only due to correct understanding of the entire system. That will, unless we know the existing species information in the form of identification, the naming very important, and classification, whatever the way that we are talking about, that is should be there. Then only we have the complete information about the taxonomy. That means to say these data can be integrated with other facets of evolutionary knowledge to produce a more accurate phylogenetic schema. This is very important aspects. That's why there are a number of problems in taxonomy. Many of the countries' flora we don't have. Many of the information we don't have. Indian flora as such we don't have because of it. There is a dearth of the taxonomist. So in spite of it, the beginning of our father of botany, Theophrastus, and at the same time, at the 10th century, Albertus Magnus, who has distinguished between dicot and monocotyledon using the crude lens then available. Then there was investigation of the microscope by the Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Then because of that, some information we could get, and finally, because of the classification system became complicated, because there are 4 categories. Strictly speaking, there are 3 categories. One is the artificial, another one is the natural, and today we are talking about current and contemporary system of classification, that is the phylogenetic system of classification. But when you talk about the period, the time of period of classification that was existing, the 4 different categories are there. One is the classification based on the habit, that is the earliest with regard to the Theophrastus and Albertus Magnus and Andreas Cisalpino, who is considered as the first plant taxonomist, because today we are talking about ovary inferior, superior, and polypetalous condition, gamopetalous, all these divisions he could make in the 16th century before the Carolus Linnaeus. That was the story. Then he could understand, if you go for based on the habit, what was the finally result? Because of the size of the plant, we cannot categorize. There can be any number of attributes. Attributes means salient features the organism has got. So that is the characteristic feature we have to distinguish between the species and the other. So that's what the recognized taxon. This is how we are going to do. So this was understood by Carolus Linnaeus in the 17th and 18th century. That is in the middle of the 18th century. He has rejected the habit system of classification. Then he has come out with a very advanced system that is called the artificial system of classification. But he has considered only the stamens, the sexual parts of the plant body, that is stamens, the union and other characters. He has made 24 classes, and his classification is famously called artificial system of classification, or otherwise we call the very important based on the stamens character. That is also called very important that numerical taxonomy, because he has used the number for the division that has really helped, like monoadelphous, diadelphous, all those conditions he has prevailed, and he has he was so loaded with the greater students that the way we are having the PhD students, they have sent outside, and all the 17 students were given the generic epithet name. See the greatness of a professor who has named Thunbergia as a Thunberg, who is considered as the Thunbergia alata, Thunbergia latifolia of Acanthaceae, the very beautiful flowers, and Rudbeckia, all the names of Vosbeckia, these are the Kamia, these are the names of the students of Carolus Linnaeus, who has given so much respect, because all the students, 70 students, went outside, and for your information, there was no communication. He had written, see, writing one letter, we are so much worried. He had written 5,000 letters. Here I'm talking about in the middle of the 18th century. He had 500 correspondents. See, writing a letter, we are so much, we think that it's a waste of time. He had 5,000 letters he had written to various professors at that time in the middle of the 18th century to come out with the beautiful species plantarum that is considered the monumental work today. That is where I wanted to come. That has been considered as the starting point date of present day nomenclature, that was published on 1st May 1753. Please note down this date, because those who are in the scientific field, 1st May 1753 is the important date, because of the reason, whatever the names that we are going to give for any plant, or if you come across a new species, we will be scrutinizing from the 1st May 1753. Because on that date, Species Plantarum, the famous book, was published by Carolus Linnaeus. Because of the compilation work of 17 students, they are been also called 17 Linnaean apostles. Linnaean apostles means very loyal to Linnaeus, who worked like anything, who had come to Malpe, who had come to some of the Vosbeckia, Ronaldo. They visited Malpe in the middle of the 18th century. They visited Mangalore, Malpe, Surat, all those areas. They had a tremendous problem. There was no communication. And for your information, out of 17 students, 7 died outside the foreign country. That means outside the Sweden, they lost their life because while working in the field. See, today we are talking about so conveniently touching the Species Plantarum, touching the Gambel flora very conveniently, because of their contribution. We have to remember their services. So today, if at all any reality by species plantarum published on 1st May 1753, which is considered as the starting point date of present day nomenclature. If you at all come across any new species, we have to refer the names from 1st May 1753. Then onwards, any repetition of the name, whether name has already been given, all those aspects we will consider because of the recommendation of the International Botanical Congress (IBC). 1st May 1753. Please note down. Very important. The terminology taxonomy coined by Decandol. Please note down. So why I am talking about, if you are hearing such a important oldest science of today, that we are talking about today about the principles of ICBN, and why all of a sudden ICN and all those, I am going to talk to you because of that. So this is not the linear contribution. And for your information, the very important information, binomial nomenclature, binomial system who has introduced, who has practiced by Carlos Linnaeus. But for your information, before the Carlos Linnaeus, people started using the binomial, but there used to be polynomials. Everything related to naming of the nomenclature I'm talking about. Earlier, there used to be polynomials. That means to say there was no system, correct nomenclature system. It was Linnaeus. Before that, it was Rivinus. Before that, Jean Boyen, another important guy who used to name the plant with the polynomials. Polynomials means more than two names. See, Saida acuta, one important plant that used to be called with the 7 names. Instead of naming those plants, it used to be description of the species. That used to be called like 7 names. Means you will be surprised if I start telling Althea, Coramandalina, Angustix, Prolongis, Folis, Semen, Bicarneo. This is a name of a plant. So now we are calling Saida acuta. See, this is the name. 7 names used to be there for one plant name. So see the condition of the earlier system. It was introduced by Jean Boyen. But these are the lapses that was understood by the Linnaeus, who has corrected it. That is why he is been called father figure. So that is another important. That means to say Saida acuta now, because of Linnaeus Saida acuta, earlier it used to be polynomials. So before Carlos Linnaeus, it was Boyen who started using the binomial system of nomenclature, but he was not consistent enough. He was not following enough. Henceforth, these are all the lapses, the habit system, and everything was rectified.
Am I audible, sir? Sir, your slides are not moving, sir.
After 5 minutes, I'll come back. After 5 minutes, I am giving you preamble so that I will be going with the ICBN. Slides I have not started. I am giving you preamble of the contemporary issues, why we are coming here. After 5 minutes, madam, I'm coming now. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
No. Intentionally, I'm giving you so much explanation because vast area, the current and contemporary, the science that we are understanding, we should know the beginning. The way Dr. B.R. Ambedkar says, always those who know the history, they can create history. Those who know the history, then they can create the history. That's what. So unless we have the background information, preamble of the same, I'm talking about what has happened all these days. Why we are talking about all this now? What was the story and why we are talking about? That's why the contemporary status of any facets of science is better comprehended and oriented by anybody who has a knowledge of its beginnings and development. Henceforth, I'm giving you because I understand that diversified group of participants are here. If it was only botany, I would have agreed. I have already discussed with the course coordinator, so that I am giving you what was the story in the taxonomy for better understanding of the biochemist, biotechnologist, zoologist. Of course, zoologist, they are our neighbor. No problem. They know very well that because Linnaeus has been called both father of botany and zoology. No issue. That's why for other people who are having, so what was the difficulty now? Why we are talking about all this? That's why, see, naming a plant name must contain 2 names. One is generic epithet, another one is the specific epithet. This was a rule made by Rivinus in 1529 itself, before the Linnaean concept came into picture in the middle of the 18th century. That is why, so why we see many lapses were there. it was rectified by carelessness. I'm talking about only revolving around naming of the plant. See, today, if at all anybody who is not having name, the existence of our starts with the naming. Unless if you don't call, there cannot be existence. Even to link a other, naming is such an important functionary of the present day. Without name, your existence will not be there. As such, we are zero. If I declare that I am son of or daughter of so and so, then your score starts like 1. So this is the truth. That's why naming. See, for us, our parents, who is going to name the plant? It is the customary great effort of taxonomist who is going to name with greater difficulties, understanding of the geographical distribution, understanding of the current situation, understanding of the entire plant body. He is going to name. While naming, they had so many problems. While classification, they had so many problems. Habit, if you consider based on the size or length, we cannot have a classification. How many, who is going to count the sizes and all? That is not a good practice of science. So crude method cannot be followed. Hence, habit system was rejected by Linnaeus. Linnaeus followed his own principles of classification and nomenclature. Then, in spite of it, the people commented on Carolus Linnaeus, who is considered as the father of taxonomy, because if you cannot literally sit and count the number of stamens by taking the flower character, so reproductive structure, what about the other character? So henceforth, when I told you experimental taxonomy, not only morphology, we need to approach cytology, we need to approach anatomy, we need to importantly the genetics. When you talk about genetics, obviously relation. When you talk about, that is what the relation, blood relation, consanguinity, we call the terminology consanguinity. That means blood related plants must be together. That is called the natural system. When you talk about natural system of classification, obviously it was Michael Adamson who rejected the famous figure Carolus Linnaeus system of artificial system of classification in favor of natural system of classification. The major players are D. Jesu, De Candolle, and today we are talking about very important, those botanists can understand Bentham and Hooker system of classification. They all belong to natural system of classification. They were after, see, when you talk about a relationship, one or the other way, they share the common characters. When in the Europe country, in the middle of the 18th century and beginning of the 19th century, when the plants were collected from different parts of the world, they could see some similarity. That is what the similar plants should be grouped together. The dissimilar plants should be grouped apart. This they understood. So henceforth, the natural system of classification came into existence. Under that, we are talking about that we are all studied in our graduation or post graduation. That is Bentham and Hooker system of classification in 1884 of Genera Plantarum. So where we are again very important points. Even today in the world, Bentham and Hooker system of classification is practiced because of the convenience. Though there are some of the lapses, like when you talk about natural system of classification, obviously there was one important lapse by both of them, Bentham and Hooker, keeping the gymnosperm in between the dicot and monocot. When you talk about natural, means all angiosperm might have originated from the dicot. They might have originated from the gymnosperm. That's what the Magdoliaceae, we talk about the most primitive family among the angiosperm, because of the presence of border pits and numerous stamens, all those polypetalous conditions, all those conditions we prevailing in the gymnosperm. Henceforth, why did they keep in between dicot and monocot? There was the greater lacunae, disadvantages with the Bentham and Hooker. That is a difference. So I don't want to touch upon. But when they were talking about natural system of classification, if they had considered only the existing relationship is not sufficient, because of the four important investigations that took place in the 19th century. One is the epoch-making works of the Charles Darwin, who has come out with the famous book called On the Origin of Species, not the Origin of Species, On the Origin of Species in 1859. And another important epoch-making work of Alfred Russel Wallace, who have the opinion that whatever the present plants that are living are the descendants of the earlier ancestors. That means to say there must be evolutionary significance. Unless if you consider only children character, what about the parents' character? What about the ancestral character? Henceforth, when you talk about genetics in case of natural system of classification, we must also consider the lineages, the parental information. That is what the another important area, that hereditary material, the another Gregor John Mendel's work. So very important, that is trait, that is who worked on the piece. So his work his works were also considered. That is the epoch making work. Another important one is the Hugo Duris work, and another important, the rediscovery took place in the 1900 by three independent scientists, that Hugo Duris, Carl Correns and Sharma, who has rediscovered the Mendelian's mathematical model. So for after his 16 years of death and 34 years of investigation, it was rediscovered in 1900 by three independent scientists belonging to three different countries. That means to say there must be evolutionary significance. If we get the information of children alone, plants alone existing is not sufficient unless we get the parental information. That is why evolutionary lineage. That's why we are talking about phylogenetic system of classification. The current and contemporary system of classification is the phylogenetic system of classification. That's what the APG, Angiosperm Phylogeny Group, that's what we are talking about. We are into this condition. So I've been talking about from the habit. Habit was rejected by Linnaeus in favor of artificial system of classification. Artificial system of classification was rejected by Michael Edison in favor of natural system of classification. And natural system as such is not sufficient. Genetics alone is not sufficient. It was Sachs, another important taxonomist, Sachs, who was in favor of phylogenetic system of classification. Today, what kind of system of classification is in force means the phylogenetic system of classification that we are forcing. To begin with, Engler and Prandtl system of classification, because of the Sachs contribution. That is why not only genetics, the ancestral characters must be taken into consideration, because of the greater work of Charles Darwin, who worked for 4 years in the Galapagos Island, who did not work in the laboratory the way we are working. He has made a closer observation. You could notice whatever the plants or animals that are living, they are the descendants of the ancestral properties. Henceforth, evolutionary information should be taken into consideration for classification and naming. This is what the concept given. So henceforth, we are into phylogenetic system of classification. Under that beginning of the system is the Engler and Prandtl, because of their beautiful book, Die Naturlichen Slungen Familien, the name of the book, because they have used not only morphological character, the other characteristic feature taken for division of the or understanding of the naming of the problem, and some of the taxonomic controversies they have come out with the solution by approaching biochemistry, anatomy, genetics, all those information. That's what the information. So henceforth, so any contemporary issues, if you are going, so I have given enormous information with regard to preamble of the taxonomy. So under this information, I would like to proceed the another important function, that is the nomenclature. So every species, for that matter, whether we are talking about animal, whether we are talking about plant, so may be found in two different sexes and different age groups, seasonal forms, and other phenotypic variation. That means to say, we have noted the possible present forms of life on land, but a large number of beautiful creatures are found to inhabit in the sea ocean. So that's oceanic zones where humans endeavor to explore through modern technology do not yield fruitful. That means to say, unless we have the information about all the creatures, the organisms that are available, we can have a beautiful classification. So the present form of classification which we adopt to classify the organism is the outcome of the efforts of the biologist, especially the taxonomist. Taxonomy helps us to organize huge amounts of knowledge about organism, because all members of a particular group share many characteristics. It allows us to make prediction and frame hypothesis. Very important. Any researchers that they need is hypothesis. So for further research based on the knowledge of similar organism. At the same time, it places them in useful groups with the precise names so that researchers can work with them and communicate efficiently. This is what the need of the hour. See, many languages, for every 7 kilometers, the dialects get changed. The way I speak may be different from North Karnataka. The way I speak, we speak of Hindi from South India may be different from North India. The eastern states, though we are talking about Hindi, the pronunciation, the dialects, the verbatim, all those get varied. Henceforth, there should be commonality. There should be common tongue for the scientific naming of the entire plant kingdom. That is the recommendation for which people are trying like anything. Study of taxonomic features allows the construction of databases that can be used for a further rapid identification of organisms in the laboratory work. So by this background information, so I would like to go with the information that I have loaded. So to discuss with you, so that is the beauty that you are going to understand. So see the information that I am going to talk about. So that with this background information that see, this is a man who has done an excellent work in the University of Mysore. For your information, Professor D. Govindappa and my teacher, Professor G.R. Shumurthy, who have taught me the whatever the elements of plant nomenclature or taxonomy that I'm studying or delivering in our post-graduation and for PhD program. Basically, I'm a plant pathologist. My colleague is also with me, Dr. S. Niranjan Raj, who is head of the department of the director of KSY, who is also seeing, he is also listening to me, and he knows we are background information with the purely plant pathology, microbiology, but whatever we learned today because of the greater persons, one is Professor Shekhar Shetty and Professor G.R. Shumurthy, because of them we are here. So that is one
excellent,
thing.
Sir.
Thank you so much, sir. In this context, in this background, so I would like to mention the naming of plants, very important. Why the ICN has come, why instead of ICBN, all those information that I would like to give. This is the updated information with regard to the taxonomy, though it's a older science, older botanical science. See, naming of plants is a function of taxonomy that deals with the determination of correct names of plants. It is a discipline that will guide the selection of names for the taxa. So scientific naming of plants is necessary because of the local names, as I told you, often confuse the people regarding the identification of plants. So there are no common names for hundreds of thousands of organisms. Even when there are common names available, there are problems. See, that is see, within the same language, within the even within a single country, a single species can have more than one name. So henceforth, efforts were made to develop English nomenclature based on the use of English. But for your information, many English names have often been applied to the same plant. For example, Rus vernix of Anacardiaceae is known as poison elder, poison sumac, poison dogwood, and swamp sumac. See, we cannot have English as the language for the scientific name, because see, in English literature itself, for Rus vernix of Anacardiaceae is been called by 4 names. Henceforth, it cannot be taken into consideration. The same common name is applied to more than one species, and they might not even be closely related. So Daturi in Kannada is sometimes referred to as Datura. Solanaceae in southern parts of Karnataka, while the same is Daturi name is applied to Argemone mexicana or Papaveraceae in north parts of Karnataka. That's what I told you. See the difference. At the same time, likewise, when pine is a pine, and when the vernacular name, it is been called a species of pinus, Araucaria, Agathis, Calitris, and Cassia. They all belong to different groups. So Piper nigrum is known to everybody, is variously known as black peppers in some of the time, white pepper, kali mirch, goli mirch. Similarly, a single common name, lily. Lily is used to refer many genera of the family. Liliaceae means Lilium, Erythronium, Emiro calis, Iridiceae member also being called lily. Amaryllidaceae members also called Liliaceae. Zinziberaceae member also. See, moss usually we refer to bryophytes, but bog moss is called sphagnum. Rinder moss is a lichen. Spanish moss is a Tillandsia usneoides of Bromelaceae and angiosperm. How can we use the carn for one group of the plant, when in England carn refers to several grains such as wheat, oats? Here, when we talk about carn, means we always refer maize, CMS. So when GMS is referred, usually it's referred to as carb. But for wheat also they call carb. For oats also they call carb. That is not the correct. So henceforth there should be commonality. So whereas cowslip in some parts is applied to Calthea palustris of Ranunculaceae, whereas in other parts it refers to primrose, species of Primula viris of Primulaceae. So see that I have come out with the photographs also. So how we can go for the information. So that is another one thing. So under this juncture, so I told you before the middle of the 18th century, where before Linnaean system came into picture, the names of plants were commonly polynomials. Saida acuta, Althea, Coromandelina, Angus. It's like a description of a plant species, then rather than a naming of a person. How the girl looks like the poet who describes very well about the Shakuntala about and Kalidasa that you have heard of. Like this, it depicts like that. We wanted name. We don't want description of a particular lady or a particular Shakuntala. This is the, but here is the case is different. We wanted name, but here a description and asked for the your name. He started using I am smart, I am having this much height, I am having this much smartness, and we don't want. Similarly, Plantago major, you see, Vahinu, who has recorded 9 names: Plantago, Folis, Bovatis, Glabris, Nodoscopa, Terratis, Spica, Falasco, Imbricate. See, how can we remember when 7 names, 9 names? So hence, these polynomials served as labels for the taxa at the same time as the diagnosis of the species. These proved to be incompatible. It was also a Kumba system wherein a plant name consisting of many descriptive phrases. So henceforth, now by this time you are understanding why we wanted there must be uniformity, there must be binomial system of nomenclature. In this context, to overcome the difficulties caused by the scientific community, a beautiful system of nomenclature, botanists of the world have given scientific name, and now these are based on the Latin language. The reason also, you know very well that Latin is very important. The earlier only the experts that were using, henceforth Latin language does not belong to any country. As you know, very difficult, though we are with a diversified group of people in India itself, we have so many languages, so recognized 14 languages recognized which are printed in the note. We are having difference of opinion. So if you consider, so Latin language, they used to use by the scholars at that time. This is their acceptable system of naming of plants, must be international in character and common to all tongues. Henceforth, the scientific names have been practiced in the Latin. Why? The scientific names of plants are based on the Latin language, because it is known by scholars and students throughout the world. And what is the alphabet and language? To be universal, scientific names must be written in the same alphabet and the same language. The codes of nomenclature require that all scientific names be Latin in form, written in the Latin alphabet, and subject to the rules of Latin grammar. And scientific names of living organisms are therefore Latin, are treated as Latin, even if they are derived from the other language. So in our laboratory, we are also working on taxonomy. So we have come out with so many species. So one name, so one place we call Bandipura. So we have come out to Viscum of one of the parasitic flowering plants, where we have Latinized that Viscum pandipurens. So this is the name in Karnataka. Bandipura, you might have heard, is a national this one forest area. Bandipura Nagaravale, Rajiv Gandhi National Park. We have identified a new taxon that we have identified after Latinizing the same. Viscum pandipurens, Balanaphora dieca. We have found out in the southern parts of the India, where only in this time only it was found only in the northern parts of the India. Hence, for dietica Deccan, we have Latinized and we have reported in our name for the first time. So when it is the case, then so many terminologies we need to understand. Names of the taxa above the rank of genus. When we are talking about names of the taxa above the rank of genus, consists of only one term only, and therefore uninominal or unitary. They are plural nouns or adjective used by nouns and are written with a capital initial letter. That means it's a generic epithet. The names of genera means always to begin with capital initial letter. There are, so the way the English grammar are being used, like all punctuation marks are very important. There are 7 punctuation marks are very important. Full stop, comma, semicolon, all are very important even in the scientific literature. So names of genera are also uninominal. They are singular nouns written with a capital initial letter. So names of taxa intermediate in rank between the genus and species, means this is the name of such a taxon is not uninominal, but is a combination of the name of the genus with another preceding, peculiar to the taxon, preceded by a word indicating its rank. That means a primula, subgenus primula, it has got 2 terms that it cannot be uninominal. It's a binomial. So when the condition is the names of taxa intermediate in rank between the genus and the species. So that is very important. So names of the species, there will be question. Names of species always consist of two terms only. That's what the Revinus has told in the 1529 itself. So any plant taxa must contain only two terms only, and they are called binomial system of nomenclature. This is what the consistently used by Carolus Linnaeus in his famous book called Species Plantarum. So which was published on 1st May 1753. Please note down that date. Are binary. The generic name and the specific epithet which together form a binomial or combination or binary epithet. Specific epithet, see, Saida acuta or acuta alone, if you are going to write, it's a nonsense. Without the generic epithet, so it cannot, it doesn't give the sense. So no standing in the plant nomenclature and cannot be used alone to refer to any organism. Specific epithets are written with the small initial letter. That means the generic name should be started with the capital initial letter. Specific epithet must start with the small initial letter. This is the condition compulsory, and there should be gap. When you are writing, you must underline separately. When you are typing, you should italicize separately, or you should underline without italicizing. And you must give the authority who has reported for this first time. That is also to be noticed, and it has to be practiced by our group, life science faculty. Otherwise, the chemical science or physical science people will not understand. They should have a respect. We should commend the respect. Why people are writing like this? This is the rule given by international community, International Botanical Congress. You must write. This has to be the practice. Whenever you write the Ravalfia serpentina, Ravalfia, capital initial letter, then there should be cap, serpentina, L. And there should be gap. L means abbreviated, full stop. I told you every punctuation mark has value here. L full stop, you must give. Full stop means abbreviated. The name, my name, K full stop, N full stop, Amruthesh. Amruthesh was full form, K means abbreviated, N is abbreviated. Like this, without fail, you have to go practice. You have to teach them, your students properly. There should be gap. There should be underlined separately. There should be, after specific epithet, one space and put the capital. If the letter is higher, Linnaeus, you have to write L or L. 4 letter is enough. If it is the Rodrigues, you must write ROD full stop. So if it is a Neil, only all the 4 letters should be written NEL without full stop, because it's not abbreviated. His name itself is Neil. So that's why we have to be very careful. It has to be a practice. That's what I'm here. This is what the refresher course is. The names of taxa below the rank of species means under the botanical code, several categories of the taxa below the species are recognized. Names of subspecies are therefore trinomials. Names of infra, not intra. You have to be very careful. Infra subspecific taxa may consist of more than 3 terms. That is Balanophora fungosa, subspecies indica, Balanophora fungosa, subspecies indica, variety indica, tetranomial. That means to say names of species may be a binomial. When the condition is prevailing because of the identification of the variety or subspecies, you have to be very careful. That can also be trinomial. That can also be the condition of the tetranomial. You have to be careful. Names of species as such is a binomial. Names of taxa below the rank of species, when you are talking about, it should be trinomial or it should be tetranomial. According to the condition, you have to understand and you have to write. So these are all the rank ending of the example that I don't want to go, since I need to discuss more of the other aspects. So the current activity of botanical nomenclature is governed by International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. So published by the International Association of Plant Taxonomy. The code is revised after changes at each International Botanical Congress. Last Shenzhen, China, we had, and 18th Botanical Congress is the major one because of many recommendations that come out. That's why the name of the title of the code, ICBN, International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, has been changed to ICN after the 18th Botanical Congress, which was held in July 2011 at Melbourne, Australia, wherein they have come out with the recommendation from 1/1/2012 onwards. Please note down the date. From 1/1/2012 onward, the title of the code has been changed from ICBN, International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, to International Code of Nomenclature of AFP, Algae, Fungi and Plants. What are all the recommendations I am going to tell you? This is what the refresher course I wanted to convey. The update, the Algae, Fungi and Plants. International Code of International Code of Nomenclature, ICN of AFP, Algae, Fungi and Plants. Why algae, fungi have been included? Because there was a reason. There are reasons. So this is one important aspect. So no two taxa can bear the same correct scientific name within the provisions of a particular code. Same names are allowed across the codes. This is called the tautonym. When NASA is written, it's not allowed. It is inadmissible in the code. When Saida, it's inadmissible. It's called the tautonym. We cannot understand. There must be variation with respect to specific epithets. So that's what. So this is similarly the generic name. The Cecropia urticacea in the plant kingdom refers also to show a mass in animal kingdom. So draft biocode and phylocode have also been developed during the last for convenient handling of the combined database for all organisms. So henceforth, there are in the entire ICBN bar ICN, there are 6 principles and 75 articles. The way we are talking about Constitution of India, amendment, everything takes place once in 5 years. There are 6 principles which are very, very important. We under that provision only we need to name a taxon. We need to work. We need to discuss. So it is the taxonomist who follow the rules. It is the taxonomist who frame the rules and regulation. So that's what they get. The plants get the name. Once the plant gets the name, means we are going to take the accountability of that particular taxon, because it gets the name, it will be categorized into a particular group. So as such, we are 0. When it gets the name, we are going to take the number. So 1.5 million species means we have identified, named and classified. There are 6 principles of ICBN. The botanical nomenclature is independent of zoological nomenclature. The code applies equally to names of taxonomic groups, treated as plants, whether or not these groups were originally assigned to the plant kingdom. The application of names of taxonomic group is determined by means of nomenclature type. That means to say, so nomenclature type, another important area. It is where plant gets name. That is what is called the typification. There must be herbarium specimen to declare, that is considered as the holotype, that is original in nature. So typification, whenever the baby is born, we need to get the record of birth certificate. Here, what is the condition? How do you say it's a new to science? Means there must be herbarium. There must be sufficient submission of the herbarium to the Central National Herbarium, Kolkata or Kew Botanical Garden. You have to submit Kew Botanical Garden saying that the herbarium I am having, which is a new to science. That is the proof. The way we are having the birth certificate. Here, how to get the name is there must be typification. Type method is the one of the condition mandate. Type method. Please note down nomenclatural type. This is very important. The nomenclature of the taxonomic group is based on the priority of publication. Who has done for the first time? Who has submitted the first time? In whose name is submitted? The date is considered priority of publication. So at the same time, each taxonomy group with a particular circumscription, position and rank can bear only one correct name. He cannot cook the names. One person gives the for same taxon giving different names. That is not allowed. It's inadmissible. The earlier that is in accordance with the rules of except in specified cases. Please note down the specified cases. There are 8 exceptional cases in the 4th principle. Because of the reason 8 families have retained their name. Even older names are valid. Asteraceae, Compositae, like that. There are 8 families which have been called both the ways. Asteraceae, Graminae, Poaceae, both the names are valid. There are 8 exceptional cases according to the 4 principles of ICBN. That is allowed. Please note down except in specified cases. Otherwise, the names of family must end with ACAE. But there are 8 exceptional families which can be called either way. Please note down how many families are exceptional means 8 exceptional cases if there is an objective question for you. Scientific names of taxonomic groups are treated as Latin regardless of their derivation. I told you Bandipura is the name of the place in Karnataka where we have recorded a new taxon and we have Latinized by sending to Kew Botanical Garden. Bandipurens, Viscum Bandipurens. This name, whether your name is some Sharma, Sharmensis, you can give your whoever you like, but with the permission of the IBC, International Botanical Congress. But there should be sufficient submission of the type method, holotype, herbarium specimen. That is called. Why the names get changed? That I will tell you now. What is the typification? The entire system that we are talking about today, based on the 2nd principle, The application of names of taxonomy groups is determined by means of nomenclature type. How to name a plant means using the nomenclatural type. What is meant by nomenclature type, that I will be discussing now. That is the very important of this particular refresher special lecture. Scientific names of taxonomy groups are treated as Latin regardless of their derivation. It has to be Latinized, though you are using in the local language. The rules of nomenclature are retroactive unless expressly means there should be clarity, explicitity, convincing is limited. So rules only will be allowed only if there is an ambiguity. Otherwise, you are not allowed to, just because of I like somebody, I don't want this name to be given to this taxon, means you are not allowed unless there is a valid reason. Misidentity, misnomenclature, all those there are rules, permission, like the Constitution of India. We have the permission for amendment of some of the rules and regulation by taking into both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha with the majority, like that. International Botany classes have to approve. Because of that only. I told you under the fourth principle, there are 8 exceptional cases. Compositae can also be called Asteraceae, Cruciferae can also be called Brassicaceae, Graminae can also be called Poaceae, Guttiferae can also be called Cruciaceae, Labiatae can also be called Lamiaceae, Leguminosae can also be called Fabaceae, Palmae can also be called Aracaceae, Umbelliferae can also be called Apiaceae. Under exceptional cases of fourth principle, both the names are valid. See, if you are talking about, you should not tell Compositaceae, Cruciferaceae. No, alternative name already been given. See, according to the ICBN bar ICN, the family name must end with ACAE. So here in exceptional cases, see the difference: Compositae, Cruciferae, Graminae, Ray, Guttiferae, Labiatae, Leguminosae, Palmae, Umbelliferae. These are the names. You cannot misuse the Labiataceae. No, you should not utter. There should be alternative name is the Lamiaceae. Both the names are valid according to the literature. I mean, the recommendation of the International Botanical Congress. So major decision. So now I am coming to the why the title of the code has been changed. Major decision that has taken on the nomenclature of the code, that is International Botanical Congress IBC, that is as per James et al. 2011. That means to say the decision intended to provide clear, fair rules to bring out stability to the nomenclature. So that is another one. So any problem? Sir, so alter the title of the code. It will be called year of nomenclature of algae, fungi, and plants. One important aspect. The code will allow the electronic publication of the names of new taxa. Beginning of 1st January 2012, the names of new plants, algae, and fungi may now be published with a validating diagnosis or description that is written in either Latin or English. For the first time, the International Botanical Congress has allowed to even to use the English language instead of Latin. So would be hopefully help taxonomists in their race to document biological diversity, because it is lost to the deforestation, habitat degradation, that threatens their extinction. So henceforth, they are allowing. Another important information that I would like to share. Earlier, all fungi used to be, I mean, names. One asexual stage is different. Name, and sexual stage will have a different scientific name. From now on, only a single name applies to the each fungal species, a principle that has been articulated as one fungus, one name. From 1st January 2012 means new fungi will require the citation of a unique identifier issued by the recognized repository that will register the name. That means to say fungi, Trichoderma argianum, the asexual stage we will have the scientific name, different one. The sexual stage will have the different name. Now from here onward, from 1st January 2010 onwards, after 18th Botanical Congress recommendation, now the fungi, each fungus will have only one name. That's why there is a phrase, that there's a saying, one fungus, one name. It is also holds good even for the fossil. Morphotaxa, once if they get a parts of the plant body, they used to get the binomial. Now, irrespective of the morphotaxa, there must be only one name, one fossil, one name. Similar to the changes for the mycological nomenclature. That means to say the code eliminates the concept of morphotaxa. Some taxonomists, if they come out with the one plant body, after several years, if they come out with the seed part, They used to be two scientific names separately, but they are not allowing. They has to be clubbed together, and that's why the new recommendation they have come out with the whether asexual stage or sexual stage in case of fungus, one fungus, one name, one fossil, one name. This is the recommendation that they have come out with the International Botanical Congress. So why we are all talking about the condition, it should be stable in naming of the taxonomic group. Avoidance and rejection of names which may cause error and confusion and ambiguity. Avoidance of useless creation of name. The nomenclature has to be put properly into an order to provide for that of the future. So citation, as I told you, you have to give the citation. I told you about this abbreviation and all those that I have covered. Double citation because the one. So already because of the misnomer, change in the taxonomic question, this we are going to change this. The best example that we are talking about, perlimilate, Penicillium glaucum. The earliest name was given by Linnaeus. Now it is been changed by the Robert Brown because of the rank taxonomic position. At the same time, Xenospora graminicola. So that we know many of the changes because of the double citation. So that is the changes. So I have told you under second principles of ICBN how the name is changed. The name is given to a plant, whether it is either the sole element used by the author of a name or the one element designated by him as the type. Holotype is designated by the author only at the time of original publication. That means to say, so whenever you are going to record a new taxon, there must be holotype. Holotype means there is nothing is great. Whenever you come across during the field work, for various reasons, you need to collect 6 specimens of the same kind. One will, the first specimen will become holotype. For your remembrance, always hola means original. The type that you are going to keep it on the herbarium and you are going to dry it and you are going to submit in your name. The places where the types were deposited are also called indicated. Holotype in the Central National Herbarium, Calcutta, or another terminology where isotypes. There's a duplication of the same. Paratypes is nothing but the same taxon. If you are collected in a different field number, that is called the paratypes, parallel to the similar. But the whether GPS will be changing, the condition of the taxon will be changing because we will have a different place. Hence, for parallel paratype we are going to use. So that's why isotype is the duplication of the another specimen. That's all, another duplicate of the holotype. So for various reasons, we are going to collect 6 specimens for naming of the same. So name starts that by this you are understanding. Whenever you are going to give a name of a new name to a taxon, newly identified taxon, you must have herbarium sheets. Herbarium sheets is nothing but type specimen. According to the condition, when do you say it's a holotype? When do you say isotype? It depends upon the circumstances. So the first specimen will become the holotype. The second will become the isotype, the duplicate of the same. Another rest of the 3 means the duplicates of the same, that we are going to keep it whenever there is if we are going to lose the holotype, we are going to elevate to the rank of holotype, means there must be another terminology. That is what is called the lectotype. Let somebody, in the absence of original author, if you are by accidentally, if you catch a fire, so if you have named GMS means you have a holotype. Somebody, the Linnaeus, who has deposited who has come out with the plant specimen under the herbarium, on the herbarium sheet. The holotype at the time of collection, you must have. That is it is called the type specimen. Now we are talking about molecular taxonomy. The DNA sequence, it is called the type sequence. So we are talking about in the basic knowledge type method, where DNA sequence, molecular taxonomy we are talking about, conserved reasons. These are the various the advancement that is taking place in the naming of the plants actually. So this is what the very important one. The second one is the sim type. It is either any of the 1 or 2 other more elements used by the author of a name who did not designate as a holotype, or any of the 2 or more elements designated by him simultaneously type. So I told you, because of some reasons, if you are going to lose original herbarium sheet, somebody will later authors will make it as a lectotype. That means to say If you are having the name of a particular plant, means there must be herbarium sheet. There must be type method, type specimen. Type specimen may be a holotype, or in the absence of holotype, lectotype. Let somebody, in the absence of holotype, we are going to create we are going to make it to the designation of holotype because of the we are lost it holotype by using the isotypes or syntype to serve as the nomenclature type. The designation of lectotype must be based on careful consideration of all the evidence provided by the author of a name in place of original publication. So that means the holotype is equivalent to lectotype. Lectotype is equivalent to holotype. That means why lectotype came into picture, because of we lost holotype, original specimen. When we are publishing the paper, we lost the holotype. Henceforth, we have made lectotype. Isotype, I told you, a duplicate of the same. What is paratype? I told you, different field number. Neotype, another important terminology. When we lost holotype, when we lost in the absence of holotype, lectotype also when we lose, then neotype came into picture. Is an element selected to serve as the nomenclature type when thorough loss of and destruction of no holotype, lectotype or syntype exist. When we lost all those, neotype came into picture. At the same time, epitype is another one. Above all, only photographic evidence we are going to keep when we lost holotype, lectotype, and also neotype. These are all the various the terminologies under the second principles. So that means to say, the way we must have birth certificate, place of the birth, doctor's name, and the name of the hospital. Nowadays, earlier when we were born, it was not their mandate. Now, without birth certificate, you will not be admitted to the schools. So, henceforth, there must be type specimen, type DNA sequence for any naming of the. This is how to name a plant. There must be type specimen, type method. So, whatever we are talking about, typification, the process of what is meant by typification, the process of designating a nomenclature type to a name. When do they get the name? Same herbarium specimen, based on the circumstances, it gets the nomenclature differently. One is the holotype, isotype, paratype, syntype. In the absence of holotype, lectotype. In the absence of both holotype and paratype, there must be neotype. In the absence of holotype, lectotype, neotype, that is epitype. It's a diagnosis, only writing at the time of taxonomist during the field work. If it is having the information, that will be deposited in the Central National Herbarium, that will serve as the labels. So epitype, these are, that means to say, if the plants get name, if any plant, today we are talking about ZMS, there must be holotype. Without holotype, you cannot get the name. Without birth certificate, you cannot name a baby. Like this, I'm talking about. It is the taxonomist, who is the botanist, it is the biologist who named the plant name based on the type method, herbarium sheets. Without herbarium sheets, that's why herbaria have got role today everywhere. The international level herbaria has got so much value. So because of that, so name, how the name changes under, these are the taxonomic synonyms, those are the homonyms, autonyms, basionyms, confused names, conserved names, like this. There are so many naked names without any description, diagnosis as per rejected name, superfluous name, ambiguous name. So publication, as I told you, when do we have to publish? Valid publication, data publication, priority, who has published, starting point date, I told you, 1st May 1750 that I have covered, fossil plants, effective publication, valid publication. So these are the terminologies. So these are the 4 differentiate between those things given below the masculate. So at the same time, when we talk about this is another one aspect that I called on time 315 APG that we are talking about. So this is a newer, I told you, current and contemporary system of classification that is in force is the APG system of classification, compiled by eminent personalities who are the vice chancellors of various universities. They are working in the laboratory. P. Brahmer, who is also a vice chancellor, K. Brahmer, our wife, vice chancellor. See, MWHS, who is working, 8 scientists who have compiled APG, Angiosperm Phylogenetic Group. So that phylogenetic system of classification, current and contemporary system of classification, they have come out with so many recommendations. See, whatever we are talking about APG today, the 4 volumes have come out today. So all the 4 volumes, they are the authors, 8 members, they have come out with they have superseded the basic biologist, botanist, because with the molecular evidences that they are providing. biochemical evidences that they are providing. They have come out with their own phylogenetic system of classification based on the ATGC content. So that is molecular taxonomy. So this is the Stockholm place where they have worked. Some of the glimpses that I am giving you just for your information. Brigadier Bremer, see Mark Chase, MW Chase, the people who are worked in the same field, Jill Reveal and Douglas Soltis and Pamela Solitis and Mysore Botanical Garden, where they have worked together by taking, see the 15 classes, they have 15 groups. Now whatever the basic order, the ranking is their plant kingdom, they have changed into clade level. So this is purely based on the work of D. Gesso, who has come out with the publication of Genera Plantarum on 4th August 1718, 1789. That they have taken as a monumental work, the basic work that they have taken into sampling of the molecular study, and they have come out with the recommendation how the different families are related to each other by taking the DNA samples. So like this, the molecular systematics, angiosperm phylogeny group. So how they have come out, a modern system of for flowering plants was planned in the 1990s by the angiosperm phylogeny group, which involves a few eminent botanists from across the world. The system contains classification to the levels of orders and families. Molecular analysis done by taking DNA samples from 2 chloroplast genes and one coding for ribosome. This is a newer issue that I am talking about. I want to touch upon because of the beginners, of the faculty that they are participating, because major points of APC system not to use formal scientific names above the level of order, but rather to have named clades instead of more than the order. They are using the clades such as eudicots, monocots, and rosids. So to place a substantial number of taxa whose classification has traditionally been uncertain. So to offer alternative classification for some groups in which, for example, a number of families can either be regarded as a separate or can be merged into a single large family. APG2 refers such groups as bracketed taxa. That is one recommendation. Bracketed taxa are introduced to help cope up with the transition from the older morphologically based classification to newer molecularly based system. So APG1, initially 40 orders, unclear how many orders are needed. 462 families, many families not yet allocated to any order. APG2, 45 orders, 457 families, 35 families not placed in any order. Some families with similar characters placed in bracketed taxa, still under controversy. They have not come out with some of the families. Focus was more on order and less on families. So Asclepiades is now merged with the Apocynaceae and is placed in bracketed taxa. Another example in this, Avicenniaceae is now placed into Acanthaceae. Myoporaceae and Budgeraceae are now merged with Staphyloraceae. So families merged with Asparagaceae include bracketed taxa. These are the one. At the same time, family number 1C in a regular classification, Magnoliaceae is considered as the beginning family, primitive family. But in APG system, Amboralaceae, very important one. Amboralaceae as per the linear sequence of APG, beginning family. The last family is Astraceae in our regular system, here APAceae, and also known as Amberliferae. So basic terminology that they are using in the new system, clade means a single branch on the tree of life. It means a group of composed a single ancestor and all its descendants. That's what the phylogeny. The classification of taxa is known as phylogeny. That's all. The study of evolutionary relatedness among various groups of organisms. An order is the highest rank in this system. Order is the highest. Higher groups are only defined as clades like eudicots, monocots, rosids, and asterisks. Basic basal dicots are Anita. It stands for the genera Amborella, Nymphia, Elysium, Trimenia, and Astrobelea. These are the recommendations. So monophyletic group contains an ancestor and all of its descendants. Paraphyletic group contains an ancestor but only some of its descendants. Polyphyletic means contains various organisms with no recent common ancestor. So these are the earlier hierarchy where APG system does not recognize ranks above the order. From here onwards, no order, no classification. Ranks above the order as treated as clade. You must hear the word clade. So APG 3, so 413 families, 59 orders, unplaced 5. Those are the information that I'm giving you, some of the examples that I'm taking about. So this is how the Rafflesaceae, biggest flower of the world, which is very bad odor, So Rafflesia course flower. So Indonesian advantage of APG that you know very well, that I'm sharing this slide. I don't want to use your time because 3:15:20. So I want to have some discussion, 5 minutes. Sorry for the inconvenience. So this is on at the same time, some of the recommendation, accuracy, pleomacy, so cynomoriacy, so idoliacy, hyperacy. These are all the changes that made that we have made. Okay. So with this system that I'm concluding, so this new classification and also the understanding of the system, every information that I have loaded here, that you please use this for any classification. You are welcome. Sorry for taking 5 minutes more, 5-6 minutes more. You are welcome for any clarification with regard to typification or with regard to APG system of classification. Please, you are welcome. Any of you can initiate for 5 minutes. I know the limitation, but 5-6 minutes I have taken more.